Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Friday, March 17th meeting of the American Rescue Plan Submission Review Committee. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted, the recording will be posted on the town website. The agenda should be up on your screens. First item is announcements and updates. Discuss the first slate elimination, discuss the second slate, that is who, if any, what, if any, not who, that's not it at all. What application, if any, do we want to take off of the first slate? And the second tier, is there something that we want to put on? And then we'll take public comment. The meeting materials are up on that link underneath the agenda. I'll put that in the chat if anybody wants to find it. Hang on a sec. Where'd it go? I lost it. Hang on. Sorry.
Let's see. I can post that in the chat for you, Mike.
All right. Yeah. I lost the agenda. Losing too many things. Okay. Does anybody have any announcements or updates? I should say Miriam Ashkenazi is in West Africa on a Kennedy School
sojourn
mission junket, whatever. She sent me an email the other day, and she sounded exhausted, and said she was. She's been doing a lot of stuff. And Jenny Raitt is not going to be with us today, so it's the three of us. And on that basis, I would say I don't think it's appropriate for us to take a vote with just three of us on any of these. But let's see if we can have a short discussion on the topics that we want to cover, and we'll go from there. Okay. Does anybody have any announcements or anything? Arthur, Brian, Chaz, Tyler, Melissa?
As usual,
Go ahead.
I've got my 2 cents, but I'll wait for other people, okay?
Okay. Well, let's talk about the first round of or the first tier of applications. So, Arthur, do you want to open with that?
Yeah, I do. Okay.
Go ahead.
And I'm a very sincere. I'm sure no one doesn't questions me, but I'm very sincere, concerned. Okay, don't sleep at nights, because I want every child, every person in this country to have an opportunity to get a grab at that ring. The ring is the American dream. And I want to make every opportunity possible to make that happen. Let me start off with a quote. Men of America, the problem is plain before you. Here is a race transplanted.
All right.
Here is a problem. Here is a race transplanted through the criminal foolishness of your fathers. Whether you like it or not, the millions are here, and here they will remain. If you do not lift them up, they will pull you down. Education and work are the levers of uplift of a people. Work will not do it unless it is inspired by the right ideals and guided by intelligence. Education must not simply teach work, it must teach life, unquote. So wrote the great Black scholar and educator from Great Barrington, Massachusetts, Dr. William Edward Burghardt Du Bois, who penned the above in 1903. Yet today, there are large swaths of Black and Latino children in the public schools of Brookline who are unable to read at grade level and score poorly on the MCAS exams. There are disproportionately high numbers of economically disadvantaged Black and Latino children in Brookline who don't eat and are not fed properly. Shame on our community. ARPA funds now in our coffers will come perhaps once in our lifetime. I will not, under any circumstance, squander this opportunity to raise the economic and social levels of disadvantaged individuals most in need, especially now children who do not need, at this point, summer recreation programs. I have spoken at length with Tyler and Mike this week past about some of my concerns with the funds I'm responsible for allocating, and I still have a bit more ways to go before I make some of my final decisions. Miriam is not in the country presently, and unfortunately, I need to pass some of my thoughts past her. Please be patient. I know we have time before the first allocations, the final allocations are made for round 2 funding. However, please feel free to contact me if you have any questions and or concerns. I will also intend to contact people who have submitted proposals as I've done this past week. The town of Brookline needs to be exceptional versus the norm in terms of reaching and educating all of its children, and not just those who reside in upper precincts or who have parents that can enroll them in expensive math classes during winter break vacations. Thank you kindly for your time and attention. Okay, and um, I mean this with every ounce of concern that I have in my body. And I've said this to Michael. I come from the very, very bottom. And I got here in Brookline, which is maybe, one of the more affluent communities in the country, because I got a break. Okay, someone thought about me, and okay, through education, that's what lifted me up. And I would like to be able to give that opportunity to many of the children in this community who don't have that. Thank you very much.
Oh, Mike, you're muted.
There we go. Thank you, Arthur. What you're speaking of is focusing in a very finding a way to do something with what the school department calls the achievement gap, and what's called the achievement gap in general between minority kids and particularly children from low income families.
The general population.
Yeah, and the general population, and some of the proposals that we have in front of us, the applications that we have in front of us, seem to approach that topic. I don't know that we were terribly specific or really specific at all in asking for proposals for that address that issue. And so one question is, okay, we have applications in front of us. We have some good applications, and some of them don't focus on education and on approaching the topic the issue that of achievement gap broadly. Where do we go? And My own feeling is that one possibility is to hold back some of the funds that we have. And this comes out of this comment of a conversation I had with one of the applicants. And I want to, and some of the funds, and perhaps issue an RFP for to be very specific about what we're looking for. That is a possibility. Another possibility is to do something more radical and say, well, wait a minute, we want to rethink this. I don't know that I've been in touch with Miriam overseas, and I don't know that she's very enthusiastic about doing that. But I thought that I would float those two questions in front of the committee, and Arthur and Brian. What do you think? And also, for that matter, Chaz and Tyler and Melissa. What's the one question is for Tyler? Just remind us of what the timeline is and what we need to do.
You're talking about actually, does Brian want to go first? And then I can.
Sure. Okay. Go ahead, Brian. Yeah.
So thanks, Mike. So I have some experience in my career being in grants compliance and things like that. And hearing your suggestion puts up red flags for me, because theoretically we've already done an RFP and we've already gone through this process. And I just want to make sure that we're being fair, clear to everyone. And so while I completely agree with everything Arthur just said and in every single one of your sentiments, and wish we had more applications or what have you, I do have concerns about moving the proverbial goalposts right now for everyone who has already applied. So I'm not opposed to it. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. I'm just saying we need to kind of figure out how to do it fairly, equitably, and in full compliance with the regulations.
Yep. A very apt point.
I got to look for my hand raised. Okay. I don't.
Go ahead.
Well, actually, I think Tyler can help. Maybe Tyler wants to comment at this point.
So I would sort of agree with Brian on this as to not moving back any of the timeline, because again, we still have to just be considerate of the fact that ARPA sunsets. So we don't want funds to be rescinded at all. So we still need to apply some sense of urgency to getting the remainder of round 2 awarded and start getting that out the door.
Yep. Okay, and we need to have this. The funds need to be allocated by the end of 24. Is that correct?
So we need to identify where the funds have to go, which i.e. obligation for the federal term, and then they actually have to be expended before December 31st, 2026.
Yeah, yeah.
So obligated into 24, spent 2026.
Right. Okay, Chaz.
No, Arthur's got his hand up before me.
I'm sorry?
Arthur had his hand up before me.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Arthur.
Yeah, let me make myself clear. I'm not proposing that we go backwards. I'm not proposing that we open the door for new proposals. I'm talking about proposals that have presently been submitted, and maybe they have not been funded, okay, or they've been underfunded. That's what I'm saying. Because I want to be fair. So if anybody has problems with that, please make it take this opportunity to speak up.
So Arthur, you need to clarify just a little bit, because it's a little different than what we talked about. Are you saying that we should go back to some of the applicants and say, can you refocus or add some focus to what you're doing?
Absolutely. Okay. Or, okay. Can we, I thought that Miriam last time had talked about a yellow light, a red light, or red light, yellow light, green light. And that if we shortchanged or whatever, or took something away from one group in a category, that we could come back and then maybe fund programs that have been submitted, but either have not been at the level that they applied, or they were given a red light.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That certainly that helps.
Wait, how about Tyler, does that make sense?
Yeah, that was just in relation to the spreadsheet on that shared drive we were color coding so that we could sort of circle back on some of these.
Yeah,
So-
that's what I meant.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Chaz.
So on this front, some practical considerations to think about. One, I actually had a conversation with Representative Auchincloss last week, in which when we talked about ARPA and the funds being solicited and our process, he said, that sounds well and good, but you better spend it quick, because with the upcoming debt ceiling fight, ARPA is on the table, is what he said. He said that Republicans eager to extract a price for raising the debt ceiling will use ARPA to do so, and they will claw back any non-obligated funds. So if we don't obligate the money quickly, we run the risk of it being clawed back as part of the debt ceiling fight. Obviously, Representative Auchincloss said he doesn't want that to happen, but he's worried about it, that it would be a convenient kind of, if you haven't allocated it now, then you're clearly not going to spend it, is the argument that Congress would make, and then we'd be in trouble. The other thing is, as a practical matter, we'd strongly recommend you allocate these funds and have the select board commit to allocating these funds. So not only the committee make the recommendations, but the select board vote on them before town meeting. And realistically, before the election, before May 2nd. Because if the override fails, I guarantee you that the schools will be looking to this money to plug their operating gap again. And it'll be a floor fight at town meeting. So a good way to avoid that is to say that the money is spoken for, and that it's not eligible to be reallocated in that fashion.
Okay, that is a very helpful and important message. Thank you. The second part as much as the first. All right, well, that tells us that we don't have a lot of time as a practical matter. One thing is, so I've said this before in public and I'll say it again, I am a recovering Republican. And so the idea of spending money just because it's there makes me shiver just a little bit, but there are useful things to spend it on. And so the imperative to get it done resonates certainly. Brian, go ahead.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, so as a process-oriented person, I'm going to ask how. So, and I guess I can make a suggestion. If there are, it sounds like there are applications that we know we want to advance.
Yeah.
Can we advance those?
Right.
And then figure out what's kind of left over in terms of dollars.
Yeah.
And then go through the process that Arthur's suggesting of a relook and make decisions on that in the next 30 days, which would get us to the middle of April, which I think meets Chaz's timeline, if I'm not.
Yeah. And
then assuming you could bring that to the select board for ratification, Mike, or whatnot.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Arthur, if that works, if that sounds reasonable, Mike, everybody.
Timeline is an issue for because the select board's last meeting before town election will be April 25th.
Okay.
But we're at March 17th, so we have a month.
Right. It's not impossible by any means. It's not like it has to be next week. But I just want to say that that April 25th that's it. Anything, and which means as a practical matter, we have to have our work done by the previous week.
Okay, got it.
Just to speak to the timeline a little bit, I think when we were originally having conversations about this as well, I think the committee already had this on somewhat of a fast track because the original target date for select board vote was April 11th.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so I have my hand raised.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So when does Miriam come back? When's her
19th.
return?
Should be here the 19th, or should be back to the 18th, I think it is.
Of April?
No, March. No, she should be back.
So
very
day
soon.
after tomorrow.
Yeah, something like
Okay.
a couple days. Yeah. Anything further from that, or
No.
that's it? Okay. All right.
No. I just that's just in terms of a timeline, okay? And
Yeah.
what's going to govern us.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the question really is, what should we be doing, the three of us and Tyler, in the meantime? Excuse me. It seems to me that what we ought to be doing is selecting what we think is, going forward, what, as was suggested, pick the ones that we know we'd like to fund now, and then sort out the rest of the situation. We can do that, and
So Mike, can I suggest if we
yeah, go
have
ahead.
the list from the last two meetings of
Yeah.
things that were recommended to go forward without additional effort, can we advance those today?
Yes.
So in other words, things that were coded green,
Yeah.
but we also just got to be cognizant that we're leaving enough dollars on the table to continue the work as Arthur suggests, which I agree with.
Right. Okay. Well, I think I've got the right document up here for green and yellow, but let's find out. Tyler, if I get the wrong one up, just give me a shout and we'll find the right one.
And I just so anyone like in the public who's watching is wondering what the colors we're talking about, this is just a shared spreadsheet, but this is going to be shared as an actual slate on the website once this is sorted out. We just don't have the capacity to actually share a sheet on the website, or a live sheet at least.
So let's make sure that I've got the right one up here. Is this what we're looking
Oh, yeah,
at?
we can do that. That's true. That is the correct one. And I believe it's the, I believe it was actually the yellow that was the one that was going forward. I don't think the color coding was, I think it was on the spot.
Right. Okay. So the Brookline Improvement Coalition, the $756,000 request for repairs and decarbonization. That's buildings that are currently they exist. They're low-income housing. This is on Beacon Street. This is a building I haven't been in. I've been in the other buildings, but not this one. But I have no doubt about the description based on what I saw in the others. For repairs and installing solar panels and so forth. That was Jenny's, but my recollection is that she thought that was in good shape. Brookline Center for Community Mental Health, affordable. That's to put a staff member into help eligible applicants apply for the town's affordable housing lottery opportunities. Every once in a while, a purchase opportunity comes up for an affordable unit, and there's basically a lottery that occurs. Brookline Commission for the Arts, $17,700 for funding to provide a grant, matching to provide funds to match a grant that would allow the Commission for the Arts to award funding to arts organizations for cultural programs in Brookline. Friendship Works and Brookline Council on Aging, $50,000 to strengthen and expand the work with Council on Aging. The Public Works Department, DPW Teen Center Youthscapers Leadership Program. This is basically a summer program where kids apply and learn something about team building and work together on a project for DPW and are paid
What's the cost of that?
$74,500. The Community Foundation, and this is one where we talked about, well, yes, but what's the amount going to be? A $2 million request to continue funding of their safety net grant program. The grants are actually, they're made to individuals to help them move, to put down a rent deposit, to help them in a very short-term tight situation. The funds are administered by the Brookline Center. Brookline Center for Mental Health. So there's typically a social worker from the Brookline Center who's involved in talking with people, sorting out what their needs might be, figuring out what they actually need for money, and allocating the funds. The money is funded, the money comes through the Community Foundation. And that's to augment a program that the Community Foundation has been doing on its own for decades, literally. Rental assistance and grocery gift cards for Brookline residents in need. This is Society of St. Vincent de Paul. Now, the one question I have about this is not a lot different than what the Community Foundation money goes to. And I just wonder whether this is $50,000, and I just wonder whether this might better be put into the Community Foundation, but I'll leave that question hanging out there. I do want to talk about the Black and Brown Club application for affordable childcare. Miriam, I believe, got back to the applicant and said you have some problems with the budget, and asked them to rework the budget. And Tyler, have we received anything back on that yet?
I'll need to look at that. I believe we have.
Okay, all right. So that's one that we said we're going to cycle back and look at that again. Anyway.
And how much is that?
Well, they're asking for $4.8 million, $4,835,000. And it's to establish an affordable care program in Brookline that accepts state subsidized vouchers. And the reason for that is that it's difficult there, as has been said to us, none of the preschools in town will accept vouchers. There's another way to approach that, and that is through licensing, to say to daycare centers that if you'd like to have your license renewed, you need to give consideration to accepting vouchers, and you need to explain, if you're not going to do that, you need to explain to us very clearly why. So that's something that we may be able to approach in a different way, but in any case, let's take a look at the budget that's been submitted and get a sense of whether it's more realistic or whether she feels it's more realistic. Mothers Out Front, addressing equity for renters by reducing exposures to risk from gas stove emissions. This is to give people a portable induction cooking kit, which I assume is basically a small stovetop to replace a gas stovetop. And this is $10,700.
Who had that?
Sorry?
Who had that?
Miriam had that one.
Okay.
Yep. And she gave that a pretty high rating, 9. Brookline Asian American Family Network and Public Schools of Brookline, a combination mental health supports for AAPI students, $103,000 and some change to provide, and $4,000 to provide resources to support the needs of AAPI students who've been especially impacted during COVID because of increased anti-Asian racism. And that's in combination with the public schools. And then the last one is the Nigerian professional group, the Google Coursera certification program. And excuse me, Google runs a program that we're being asked to help fund that. And there will be 500 scholarship recipients from, I can't imagine that there are going to be 500 applicants in Brookline, maybe. Seems like a lot. It's a one-year cycle to complete the courses. Now, these are online courses, Coursera, and so it requires an online connection. It requires that somebody stick to it. And it has to be somebody who's reasonably motivated to do that. And it probably would be very useful in that program to provide some sort of counseling to make sure that the participants are staying there. But those are the ones that, there we go. Those are the ones that we thought needed to go forward. So that's
Good. I'm in a meeting. Okay.
4, 6.
So Mike, if I may,
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'm just adding this up in my head.
yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. So I did the math and it's
All right.
3.412 million.
Okay. And a very substantial part of that is the community foundation, $2 million.
That's 2 million of it, yeah.
Right.
Now, do we have to take out, what else? Have we already agreed to fund anything else in round 2? Or I guess the question would be what, and I know I ask this every meeting and I write it down, but then I misplace my notes. What do we have to give away?
We have about $20 million more or less. Is that, Melissa, am I right about that? Tom?
No, 10 and a half.
10, yeah, 10 and a half.
So if we have 10.5.
Oh,
and we give away
I'm talking,
3.4.
yeah, sorry. I'm adding in the funds that are available for town departments that we've allocated. We've allocated a chunk for the town.
Okay,
You haven't officially, but if assuming the town allocation moves, which is around 5, you have 5.5 left.
Yeah.
I would say too, just so you're all on the same page, the Freedom Works Council on Aging partnership, that's in my list of asks. So that's a duplicate. If you fund the towns, you're funding that, so you can take that off your list, and that's 50,000 freed up for other business.
Okay, good.
so just back of the envelope, if we have 5.5 and we approve that if we take out that one that Chas just mentioned, that leaves us with like 3.3.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'd have about
$2.2 million.
2.2 million to continue to give away with, to play with, I should say, not play with, to continue to grant.
Right. And looking back at the ones that what that says is that we couldn't fund the affordable child care to the extent, certainly to anywhere near the extent that is being looked
Excuse
for.
me.
Go ahead.
You've got 6 that are, in my bailiwick. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So as long as you know that, I'm comfortable. Okay. And
Yeah.
okay.
Well, that also,
It totals about 2.6 million, something like that. 2.5 million.
so yeah, Mike, that we're also assuming we fund the safety net at the full 2 million.
Yes, and that's very important because that's a very
big number
chunk, and we need to think about that one in terms of not whether to do it, but what.
How you
Right.
get to it.
Yeah,
How you get to it.
right. And so the ones that we didn't really get to have a conversation about last time were these. Hold on a second, let me move this thing out of the way. These are the ones, I think these are all the ones, yeah, these are all the ones that Arthur was rating. Arthur, do you want to give us a rundown on these at this point?
Sure, I'll give you a rundown.
Go ahead.
Can I look at them through the screen?
Yeah, they're on screen now.
Okay, is it her wings?
Sorry?
Something wings. Yeah, that
Oh,
was it.
okay. Her wings first, yeah.
Yeah, I said her wings. Okay, I mean, I'm gonna give it a green light. Okay, I mean,
Okay.
and but I'm going to reserve. But that's, you know, that's like 97% green light.
Yep,
Also, the green light is the art gallery. I think the Vinfen piece. Can you see that there?
yep,
It's for 30,000, and I actually went to the art gallery, and I didn't get a tour. I just walked in off the street and spent 15, 20 minutes looking at the art. And then there is the Teen Center, and
yep.
I've spoken to Brian Epstein. There is, and I just need to make some final decisions on that. Okay, but there's also the the Justice League, or the social justice thing, which is a group of that is headed by Raul.
Yeah,
I've also spoken to Raul at length and haven't really made final decisions. There is, got two more. The opera, not opera. I'm saying ABBA. I get ABBA, ABBA. So that's the Brookline Community Fund.
right.
Okay, that's $1 million. And there's one more.
Yeah, Brookline Food Pantry.
Food, right? Yeah, okay, right. And I have some concerns about that. Okay, and I've
Okay.
spoken. So those are my 6.
Okay, and so the Brookline Community Foundation one, you would put also, you want to have a further conversation about that?
Yes, right. And yeah, but hers is minor, but I do want to have a conversation. Okay.
Okay. All right. And those total up to
2 million
2.6,
Yeah, I said I was in the ballpark.
2.675.
Right. Absolutely.
And I'm just thinking if we take the BCF safety net one, the 2359, and we give them 1.5 instead of 2,
yeah.
we can afford to fund all of Arthur's,
Okay.
or even 1.75.
And when you say all of authors, you're talking about all, including the, yeah.
Yeah, the whole 2.6, assuming we want to do that.
And that's meeting the needs of everybody else on the list.
Well, no,
No.
these are needs of all the ones that we've agreed that we should be funding. I don't want to just walk away from the ones at the bottom of the list that are that were, they're in the green band here, that we were considering as possibilities.
Sure.
Because there's right here, there's a 1.3 million and $600,000 related to construction and affordable housing, and
Which one is that, Mike?
well, there were two. There's $1.3 million for Boston Construction in partnership with the Black and Brown Club to look for vacant properties to develop into affordable housing. Honestly, I think that's in the current economic situation in Brookline, or the kind of housing cost situation in Brookline, that's a stretch.
I mean, just for context, I've had about 3.75 million in the bank for a local organization. We've been trying to find a building for the past 3 years and we can't.
Yeah. Well, you can buy something for that much money after all, but you can't buy something what you're looking for.
Exactly.
Yeah. Brookline Improvement Coalition for $600,000 to, again, to help them get started, basically down payment on and the initial sort of soft costs for identifying a property. So those two are related to property.
Yeah.
And affordable housing.
I guess I just, in light of what Chaz said earlier and the 2024 calendar deadline, it's really tough to close on Brookline property.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Yeah.
So I'm not opposed.
It doesn't have to be spent by them, but it has to be committed. And it has to be committed to the organization. The question is, if the organization still hasn't got anything to do with it, what do we? So those are questionable. Okay.
Correct.
So let's just leave those where they are.
Okay.
The $15,000 for the police lobby. We talked about that, and it's a very small amount of money. It probably can be done elsewhere. Affordable childcare, the question of the budget, and that's whatever budget there is, it's going to absolutely exceed what we would have available. And the Brookline this is also a duplicate to some extent of the what the Community Foundation does. The Brookline Improvement Coalition, the Brookline Community Development Corporation. Basically, Brookline has many people in need, yet the current safety net also often excludes people. This proposal fills gaps, and I think there's duplication here. And Marion did not give that a very high rating, so let's leave. I would suggest we leave that one where it is as well. So we have a couple that we can to come back to, but in the meantime, if you're comfortable advancing the group that we've talked about here to make a recommendation to the select board so that we can get started at least on this part. I think that's an appropriate step.
Which one is that, Michael? I'm sorry.
So there's a whole set there that we've looked at that we said yes. Let's leave these on, and that totaled up to $3.3 million, taking out one duplicate.
Okay.
Yeah. So Mike, if I might, if we drop the BCF Brookline safety net in half,
yeah,
that gives us 3.1 million. If we do all of Arthur's at 2.6, that leaves us with 462K.
Yeah.
To sort of come back to the ones that you just mentioned, the greeny ones.
Right. Although there are a couple of the ones that I have to report on that are still questionable.
Correct.
The pretty substantial.
Yeah, I'm just sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm going to raise my hand.
No, I'm just suggesting that if we do want to leave some money on the table for future consideration of coming back, that is a strategy. We also have to think, I don't want to just willy-nilly say cut BCF in half. We should think that
right. Well, that's the other thing is we might say cut in half for now.
Yeah.
And come back to it. That's probably a more appropriate way of approaching it. Okay, well, there are only two that account to the $30,000 and $53,667, $668 for Gateway Arts and Her Wings First that Arthur said are ready for, in his view, to be included.
And also the art gallery. It doesn't.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah.
Okay, but
Yeah.
Can you, Michael? Can you take a look at the buses for the Brookline Public Housing? I'm not sure where it is here, and the Brookline Adult and Community Education Center that are jointly putting together a reading program for young people this summer coming.
Okay, so I don't see that. Tyler, where should we be looking for that?
I'm not sure where that one is either.
It's not on.
This was that part of the town. Was that part of Chaz's application, because that might be why this is not showing in there, because this is minus the town administrator recs.
No, was that round one, maybe?
No,
Huh. Do you have a number for it, Arthur?
no, I don't, no.
Let's go back and look at the whole list here. I'm just scanning down the list that I have of everything.
Arthur, is this what you were, because I remember you were telling me something, was this from town meeting?
No, the
Okay,
town
that's-
meeting was. Let me, I'm gonna mute myself for a second, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
23-31,
Here we go.
442,000 to provide transportation
Okay.
to children who receive
Yep.
financial aid.
So they've cut that number in half.
Well, what I've got here is, I'm looking at their request. It's dated February 7th, and it's for $450,000.
Right, I know that they have since gotten a new vendor, okay?
Oh, okay.
They've gotten a new vendor and they've cut that figure in half.
Okay. Well, what we need is a revised request from them, certainly. but-
Okay, I'll get that, I'll get that to you, or at
Yeah.
least get it, and talk to them about it, okay? I actually have it, but I can't chew gum and walk at the same time, but I
Yeah,
have the,
okay.
Yeah, we got an
I
email
have the new
yesterday
figure.
on that.
Yeah, okay,
All right, so we'll revisit that one, certainly. But I don't recall, that must have been dropped out in the earlier discussion.
You know what I think probably happened with that? I think it was probably because it was listed as a quote unquote school ask, it was probably filtered out because I didn't recommend it because I didn't even know about it.
Yeah.
Or it was thought to have been, because REC and ODICR also asked potentially to buy a bus.
Yeah.
And when we looked at that, the actuals on that, we figured there was nowhere to store it. So I said no to that.
Yeah.
So maybe that was confused as, oh, Chaz said no to the bus, but I said
Yeah.
no to buying a bus. I didn't say no to BHA. That's a separate ask. So
Yeah, okay, all right, so let's bring that one back to life. So that's 23-31,
Line 12.
yeah. Line 12 on the sheet that's on the screen,
Yes.
okay,
what's the number on that?
here it is. Do you want to just change the color on that?
Yep.
What's the number?
23-31,
Thank you.
okay. Okay, good. Okay, so we have a suggestion, we take the ones that are basically in yellow up here. And with the exception of reducing the community foundation allocation, for the moment at least, to $1 million. And then coming back and looking at the remaining ones that are in, remaining ones to be discussed. I think we can take the police one off the list and put that in gray, based on our discussion last time. How does that sound, Arthur and Brian? That sounds like an appropriate.
Absolute, yep.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
we have a couple of participants who'd like to speak, and I'll take those at public comment time. All right, let's wait, considering that these folks are raising their hands undoubtedly about specific proposals, let's wait and listen to them before we actually finish this up and take a vote on it. Okay, stop sharing. And raised hands, participants.
you also have folks in the room. If anyone wants to speak in the room, obviously, please let Tyler know.
Yeah. Okay, I can't see who raised their hands first here. In fact, I can't actually see on the participants list who, oh, here we go. So, Abba, go ahead. Abba is from Brookline Community Foundation.
Also, we're in public comment. I just want to clarify, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me screen share and then we'll set the timer just so we're
Yeah,
also.
3 minute limit, yeah. And that's the only one that I see here. Oh, there's Elizabeth Ball. Okay.
I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay, all right. We have a great big fat timer there, and Elizabeth, but go right ahead. Nada, can you promote her?
Oh, sorry. I thought you did because I set you up for
Oh,
co-host.
no, I didn't.
I'm actually
I'm sure I know.
Abba lowered her hand.
Okay,
But it looks, oh, hers, all right, hers is back up. So I will promote her first and then
yeah, and Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Bowen will be next.
Yeah.
Okay, Abba, you were promoted to speak. Whenever you start speaking, I'll start the timer.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much for everyone's work on this. I certainly know how difficult this process can be. I just wanted to make a really important clarification about the BCF proposal, especially since it's been mentioned so many times.
Yep.
I would say that BCF, this proposal for the safety net, is probably the one proposal that is not going explicitly just to BCF. The safety net program that you mentioned, Mike, actually supports multiple nonprofits in town, not just the Brookline Community Center. So the $2 million that we're asking for, whatever the number that you all agree to,
Yep.
is going to be redistributed to numerous nonprofits in town. It's not just going to BCF, not just going to the center. So I think that's an important consideration to factor. When you're thinking about these proposals, it's a little bit apples to oranges because the other organizations, rightfully so, are applying for funds specifically for their organizations.
Right.
BCF is applying for funds to redistribute to multiple organizations in town. And that's one of the reasons why the number is so high. We do have a particular partnership with the Brookline Mental Health Center, but there are, I don't know, dozens of other organizations that we re-granted the ARPA funds to, just like we did in the first cycle. So I just wanted to reiterate the distinction between that proposal and why the number is so high and some of the other proposals.
Thanks, that's very helpful. Okay, can you give us just a sense of is there an allocation in your mind that will go to the safety net specifically versus being redistributed?
It's all redistributed. I mean, there's a tiny amount that BCF keeps for.
Oh, no, I understand that part. No, I recognize that part. But the safety net program that I described that the mental health center administers is one block.
Yes.
What's the size of that block, notionally at least? You don't have to be specific.
I believe from the first cycle, we granted 500. We granted about half of the money, 500,000 to the mental health center. We got $1 million the first cycle, and we granted half of that. And then there were others who we made grants to. And as I put in the proposal, most of the organizations that applied directly to the town for ARPA funding also received funding from the safety net program, those same organizations.
Yeah.
So we're very much working in collaboration with the town to support those needs.
Okay. And presumably if we fund something here that, for example, the art center or something of that sort, that's something that you would not be funding. You wouldn't be duplicating that effort.
Not necessarily. Like I said, I don't want to use the term duplicating, but a lot of the organizations that requested funding directly to the town also requested funding to BCF, through the safety net program, which we funded through the ARPA funds. So it's possible that an organization could get, like the Brookline Center, like other organizations, might get some funding from the town and then might get supplemental funding from BCF's safety net fund, or if they didn't get funding from the town, they could still apply to BCF's safety net fund and get funding there.
Okay,
So it just depends who's going to apply.
okay.
I want to point out, just if we're going to treat this like public comment, we got to make sure that we're just doing this uniform.
I appreciate that, but I thought that was an important question, so.
No, it was.
Okay, we have Elizabeth Bowen next.
Wait a minute, can I ask Arbor a question?
Sure. Well, actually,
No,
all right,
okay,
yeah, let's have,
okay, no, go ahead, go ahead, no, go ahead, do what you gotta do.
Elizabeth. If you promote Elizabeth, that'd be great.
Yes. All right, Elizabeth, you should be able to speak now. So when you speak, I will start the timer.
Hi, everyone. This is Elizabeth Bowen. I am the Executive Director of the Brookline Food Pantry. I just wanted to thank you for considering our application for additional ARPA grants. I just wanted to point out a very important thing that has happened since our application has come in. Probably many of you are aware that the COVID boost to SNAP to people who receive SNAP benefits has now been taken away by the federal government. So we now have literally hundreds of families who were previously counting on that money and receiving that money for the last few years, who now are getting several $100s less per month with their SNAP benefits coming to us for even additional food. In addition to that, we have many families struggling in Brookline with inflation. I think, all of you go grocery shopping, that food costs are up approximately 17% this year. Things like eggs, believe it or not, egg costs are up 60% this year. So there are really so many families struggling, not only those who qualify for SNAP and WIC, and now their benefits have been reduced, but also many families right on the margins who do not qualify for federal programs, who are really struggling with inflation and need help. As my application said, we're helping over 600 families per week at our 3 pantry locations. We deliver food to over 70 households per week, mainly the elderly and those who can't leave the house because of physical disabilities. We're helping 450 to 500 Brookline Public School students every Friday with a weekend backpack to take home and have food for the weekend when they don't get free lunch at school. And just this past month, we started 3 mini pantries at Brookline High School so that students who are suffering from food insecurity can take home dinner foods, snacks, and breakfast food. We keep them in nice small portions so they can fit them in their backpacks and not have to suffer any embarrassment from a schoolmate seeing them taking free food home. So again, I realize this is a very difficult process. You have many very worthy candidates here and applicants. And I really appreciate your taking the time to hear me today and to consider our application.
Okay, well, I want to make sure that you understand, we haven't said no, we have just said.
I do understand, absolutely, I do understand that.
Good. All right,
I think
very important.
this COVID boost was just taken away last
Yeah, no,
week.
we've all read about that, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Yeah, all right, thanks for speaking. Deborah Brown, if you promote Deborah.
All right, Deborah, you've been promoted to speak. As soon as you start, I will start the timer.
All right, thank you very much. Deborah Brown, Board President for the Brookline Community Development Corporation. Again, this is hard work, and I appreciate you all's efforts to get this right. I did want to make just a couple of points of clarification, and I understand the concerns about the soft cost and the clawback that the Republicans will think about doing until they realize that their state legislatures are actually relying on this ARPA money too. But again, there are no guarantees. In terms of our soft costs, we're actually talking to people about properties. We had 2 conversations over the past 7 to 10 days. So to say that it's a pipe dream, that we would actually spend the money, you know, of course, we'd be happy to talk to you guys offline because as some of you all may know, in these kinds of situations, you don't like to deal in a whole lot of specificity, but we're actually trying to assess and analyze where there's some properties that might be suitable for redevelopment.
Okay.
And so that's one piece. The other piece was Miriam gave us until Monday to revise our safety net application,
Yes.
which we did, which included a heck of a lot more detail.
Yep.
And so, and I will point out that it contained 3 components. You know, safety net services, a safety net analysis that included a collaborative piece. I mean, you know, when I hear about different organizations saying they want to do the same thing, one of the things that it makes me keenly aware of is that we're not effectively talking. And so how much, you know, in the grand scheme of things, can we more effectively deliver services to the people in need? So that's the other component. And the final component is guaranteed income. And we asked for ARPA money, we asked for BCF money, we didn't get any safety net money, and we're looking to other sources. And so our thing is, you know, how do we match and leverage? And unlike other organizations as a CDC, we have opportunities to have access to money that other organizations don't. And so
you're about to run out of time here, Deborah, but go ahead.
Oh, well, you know, yeah. And so if you give us $100, we may be able to leverage another $300.
Okay.
Depending on the size of the project. And so you know, it's likely going to be money well spent. So thank you again. And I appreciate all of the hard work that's going into this analysis.
All right, thank you. Again, I would say the same thing as I said to Elizabeth, that we haven't said no, we said these are things that we want to rethink. We're going to take another look at. And the fact that if you've sent a revised application in, that's certainly helpful. Okay. All right.
Next up, oh, we still have more.
Oh, we do? Okay, sorry. Go
Yes.
ahead. There's one more.
So next up is Raul.
Raul, go ahead.
Raul, I've promoted you to a speaker. When you start, I will start the timer.
Great, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. I just want to give special thanks to Arthur for taking the time to really be deliberate around the proposals that are in his portfolio. You know, I'm speaking as myself and on behalf of Brookline for Racial Justice and Equity, which is one of the proposals that's in that portfolio. I'll just say I think we have a strong, thoughtful, specific proposal that's well aligned with the spirit and the guidelines of ARPA funding. You know, you know, I was a little bit earlier in the meeting, sort of really feeling like there's some particular scrutiny that's being placed in this bundle of proposals that hasn't been placed on the larger bundle of proposals. But I do understand Arthur's perspective here. I know that he wants to be deliberate about this, and I'll just say, speaking for us, really willing to sit down and work to make sure that that we're meeting all of the needs that Arthur identified during his opening there. So appreciate also that the committee made what I think is a wise decision to make sure that there's enough funding for the proposals that are in that portfolio, and look forward to being part of that. But just thanks to you all for the work that you're doing here, and Arthur especially for the time and attention that you're taking to these proposals.
Okay, Ro, just thank you, Ro. Just to make sure that you understand what we're doing here. The last meeting, Arthur wasn't able to give his discussion of that, but all of the other, each of the other of us had previously done that. So that's why we looked at these in detail today. Okay, having heard, do we have anybody else?
We still have some in-person guests that want to speak as well.
Okay, hadn't seen them. Go ahead, just identify yourself if you wouldn't mind, and then happy to hear.
Ade Janasi, Brookline resident, from the low-income community, and I'm leading from the low-income community. So, thank you guys all for again, thank you enough for the work you do. But also, I want to thank Abba today, because she just kind of directed where I wanted to go with the BCF in terms of safety net. We've worked with the BCF, Brookline Community Foundation, and Black and Brown were part of that pocket in terms of getting funds to get to the community using ABBA funds. That led to the gift card situation that we sent you guys the videos. And so far, from my community, that has been the most effective way to get funds to families, over 100 families. Some of these families from our community, what we found out in comparison to other people's safety net program, they actually separate Section 8 housing from Brookline Housing Authority residents. So they are members from Section 8 housing that allegedly other people's safety net programs benefited, but did not benefit low-income resident from Section 8 housing. We covered that across the board. That's an understanding when you're from the community. Like some of these things, people, a lot of people have spoken about low income. I'm a member of that community. Like you will not understand the problem better than we do. And trying to figure out solutions so that we can be effective rather than bicker about who's supposed to get the funds. It's about helping the community. Giving $100 to a mother of 5 and saying you helping, it's not realistic. Those are some of the safety net programs. Some of these people that have benefited from this are Black and Brown residents that are with us. So just to put that in perspective, and also to address Brian's issue with the Bossman construction, the capital expenditure is not to buy the property. Affordable housing is about down payment and helping people to get off their feet. So you guys know numbers, you know what it is to have for properties right now. There are multi-unit properties that are affordable right now. We've been watching the market. So that proposal, it's not just numbers that we threw out there that is unrealistic. We've done more with less. And it might look like a stretch, but if you look at the percentage of what it takes to put down as down payment for a property and get low income families off the ground, which is what affordable housing is all about. And that's what we're trying to do. So it's not a low stretch, it's more realistic when you actually do the right thing. So just to put that in perspective from an insight, it's not buying the full property. Some of those capital expenditure will go as down payment, which actually help people off the ground. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I have a question. When you say that, are you speaking of
Bossman construction.
Yeah, you're right. I appreciate. I know which project you're talking about. That's not the question. The question is, when you talk about putting a down payment on, what would the funds for Bozeman be used for? Would they be for multiple properties, helping individuals purchase properties? Would they be for the purchase of a property by an organization that would run that property? Tell me a little bit more about this.
Okay, it's there in the proposal, but it's about the organization is going to be buying the property and be in possession of it. It's like a rent-to-own program.
Okay, a rent-to-own program.
So
okay.
when you afford the property, and we do have resources, I know it's a little bit. I think it's unfair for other organizations to come and kind of predict what resource any organization have. It's all about flexibility and evolving over time. So we do have resources. That's what the construction and the Black and Brown contractors are all about. And they made available to our organization a vast amount of resources in that field, from be it contractors, the cost for building. So we've looked at some of these properties, even fixer-uppers around that have been on the market recently. I don't know what property Brian's looking for. Maybe he's looking for, big money looking for multi-units. We're just looking for affordable units to fix up for low-income housing people.
Okay.
And according to the numbers, Mighty, making $30,000 a year for Black and brown residents, you cannot afford properties in Brookline.
Yeah,
Now
okay.
it's about 2 years down the road, that people still have to leave today and are getting kicked out of their house. That's just realistic. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thanks. I appreciate that. That bit of it. That all is helpful. Okay. Well, we have some questions.
We still have one more guest in person that wants to speak as well.
Every time I look at this list, I get new people. Go ahead. In fact, I see two. Go ahead.
Hi, Sana Hafiz, Black and Brown.
And then Chaz. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. Sana Hafiz, Black and Brown Club, low income resident, Brookline. I'll keep this brief. We have a lot of work to do, and I appreciate the work that we're doing. Black and brown people have suffered from adversity and overcome adversity from our inception in this country. That being said, we've always been advocates for ourselves and the solutions that we think best benefit us, and we know those. I actually agree that there's a lot of duplicate applications that serve similar purposes in here. However, I disagree that people aren't talking. People are talking. People might even be comprehending. They're just not following through. The reasons for that, that's beyond me. That being said, we see programs like the $756,000 grant for 16 units. That's a good thing, affordable housing is great. However, if this money is a once in a lifetime opportunity, we need to pick the things that will have the greatest impact. The greatest impact is not going to be 16 units. The greatest impact is something that would impact the vast majority of our population in here that's underserved. There's about just under 300 low-income Black and brown kids in this town. I know that the majority of these mothers are suffering from inaffordable childcare. And as we said, I can't count how many times there's no facility that accepts vouchers here. If we just look over impact, let's look at programs like Steps to Success. They're great programs. However, what are the numbers? How many low-income Black and brown kids are they consistently helping over time? Right. And I think another metric that really hammers down my point about impact is these programs may serve some low-income Black and brown people, but are the majority of the people that they're helping low-income Black and brown people? Forget people, let's look at kids. How many households are we gonna help by having affordable childcare for these mothers? More than 16, I can tell you that. And I'll just close out with that.
Okay. All right. I have more appreciation than you may think for the cost of childcare. Okay, Chaz and then Brian.
I just wanted to read Natalie Lenos' comment in the Q&A into the record. She said, I need to leave for another meeting, so I won't be able to raise my hand to speak, but I wonder if before making final decisions, there may be an opportunity for you to encourage any of the groups that are maybes to join forces and come back with a joint proposal, especially where they may have proposals that somewhat overlap in goal/scope. Okay,
I will say certainly that the maybes are not, there's a difference between a maybe and a no. Or in the case of the Brookline Community Foundation, well, let's go this far and see what's left. Let's absolutely, if anybody wants to revise, let's give them a deadline of, we don't have a lot of time for revisions, or put together something jointly. That would be great. I'm actually looking at a text message from one of the participants here asking about overhead costs. And one of my concerns is that two organizations doing the same thing will inevitably have higher overhead costs than one organization that's running the whole package. And so, yes, if there's an opportunity for a couple of organizations to get together, that would be great. Brian, and then Arthur. Sorry, I was going to give a deadline, wasn't I? Today is the 17th.
Mike, really quick, do you want to close the public comment period?
Yeah, sure. Let's close.
Just to make, yeah.
For procedural purposes, the public comment period is closed. Thank you. Let's say, Tyler, what's rational if someone wanted to come back and we needed to go back through a new application? It needs to be like today's the 17th, it would need to be the 20 next Friday, really.
I would say by next Friday. I mean, we can try to have as much flexibility as possible. I guess the question is somewhat, then it's going to hinge on what the proposal is, what the scope is, and how creative or how much from the ground up they're going to have to rebuild that proposal.
All right, well, let's say that we want to an outline and an indication of what we want an indication of, at the very least, by the end of this week, or sorry, the end of next week, that there is going to be another proposal in the broad outlines of it.
Do we want to maybe try to do some of that overlap or kind of combining these proposals on our end and then just see what the willingness is or the capability is?
Sure,
from, I think
if
that might be more reasonable than having everyone start reaching out to each other. And I think
All
this
right.
might be a little bit more
all right,
organized.
so, we can certainly do that, although I would leave it open to anybody who wants to reach out to another organization. And, you know,
Yeah.
they may have their own ideas that are viable. So if any of the other organizations want to get together, that's great. But in the meantime, let's take a look at where there can be combinations. Brian and then Arthur.
Thanks, Mike. So I have to go. I have to go
Yes, we all
back to
do. Really.
my pesky day job.
Yeah.
I have not yet found a way to get compensated as a full-time Brookline person yet.
Tell me about it.
Nor have you, nor has anyone, nor has Arthur. And you guys do a hell of a lot more than I do. So I don't want to kill your quorum, but if we need to take votes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's hear from Arthur, and then we'll do that.
Okay.
Arthur.
Arthur, you're muted.
Is that right? I got you. Right. Is Abba still in the room?
Sorry. Are you, who?
Abba Taylor, you know, from the
Oh,
Brookline
Abba.
community.
Oh, okay. Is she still here?
She is.
Yeah.
Abba, can you differentiate between the 2 million and the 1 million? The proposal that's in my basket, and I can take this offline.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that
Okay.
offline if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay. I
Brian?
just promoted Abba, but let's do that offline just for the sake
Do it
of
offline. You can. Okay.
Sorry about that, Abba.
All right.
Okay, do it offline.
Yeah, great. All right, thank you very much. All right, so what I will do is make a motion to recommend to the select board that they fund the list of programs or list of proposals that we have accepted in our discussion today. And so Tyler, you have presumably a complete list of that rather than me reading it off.
Yes.
But it's,
And this is something that we can share online.
right.
And for clarification, it's the ones in the yellow, the color,
Yeah.
the color
With the-
coordination.
right. With the exception that the Brookline Community Foundation is for the moment reduced to the approval portion is reduced to 1 million.
So do we wanna-
Versus two.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not necessarily a final number after. That's just
Okay. Remember, you have $1 million on me.
Yeah, no, I know that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of money, Arthur, for your stuff. Do we want to put Her Wings and Gateway Arts in right now from your list, Arthur?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay, so Tyler, just to be clear, I have 2307, 2346, 2306, the Commission for the Arts. I have 2330, which is the Youthscapers.
Yeah.
We're doing 2359 at $1 million.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah.
2305, St. Vincent de Paul.
Right.
2347, Brookline Asian American Family.
Right. 2334 as well.
Recording in progress.
2350, Nigerian Professionals. I thought we took Mothers Out Front off. No, we didn't.
No.
Wait,
no.
2334. I missed that one. I
Yeah,
apologize.
23, that's what, yeah, that's one, yeah,
I apologize. And then we'll do 2344 from Arthur's list, which is Her Wings,
yep,
and 2321 Gateway Arts.
right. That's right, yep, Gateway Arts, 2321 and 2344. Okay, those are in the basket.
Just making sure.
Yeah, good, that's very wise. All right, we have all of that. Can I take a vote? Brian,
Yes.
Arthur,
Yes,
and chair votes yes, so that goes forward to the select board. And we'll get that onto the select board agenda and get moving, and hopefully we'll get the rest of this put together. Let's, what's a rational meeting time for next time? Do we need a couple of weeks and then come back and try and finish this?
So we're meeting, we already have these set up, so we're meeting every Friday to April
Okay.
7th.
Next week,
At
right?
2, and I think it's at 2. I do need to go back and check. I think we had one we're gonna set to 12. I need to look at my notes and watch the video again.
All right. Okay, that's good. All right, so we have a schedule of what we're doing. I gotta get those into my schedule, but that looks good. All right, thank you all very much. With that, we will adjourn for today and appreciate the help, of everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Including
everybody have a good lunch.
Yep, thank you. Bye.